And then on the flip side, what is going well in Boulder that we can build on, and what strengths do we have to support a transition to circular economy? This led to what we really wanted, as much as we wanted to see what was coming in and out, we really wanted to know where to tackle first. So this led to a list of hotspots and opportunities for us to begin to focus our work on in the coming years. Some of them are listed here, and I'll tell you just about a few of them in the rest of my time here. Next slide. So the first one is packaging waste. They estimate about $2.3 million worth of materials are being sent to the landfill just in Boulder, which is pretty crazy to think about. And up to 20% of that, of our city's waste is mainly packaging materials. So compared to other US cities, we consume more paper and glass per capita and less metals and plastics, which did show a slight preference for these packaging materials in Boulder. And the paper and plastic recycling is definitely a gap in the region. While developing local end markets is, one way to create a more circular city, they really emphasize that another option is to move towards more reusable packaging. We heard about Loop and models for that we can eliminate this material as much as possible. So their list of strategies for us includes things to do both of those, recycling more and also shifting away. Next slide. So another big portion, this won't surprise anyone, of the city's waste is from construction and demolition. Globally, construction materials account for nearly 1/3 of all material consumption and around 10% of all waste. As you can see depicted in the graphic, and we don't even have a ton of building happening in Boulder compared to other cities, but it still represents annually an equivalent to 52 single-family homes of construction waste. In Boulder, more materials are going into the built environment than are coming out. Like I said, we don't have a ton of, demolishing and rebuilding, but even so, it's really important. These materials, such as buildings, such as doors, windows, fixtures, they're all really good candidates for direct reuse. We're really grateful to have Resource Central in Boulder that resells these building products. So on the longer term, really looking at this waste stream and seeing how we can scale that up and ensure that buildings can be used for longer and that the components and materials put into them can be more easily recovered after a building's lifespan is part of those strategies. Next slide. So the next hotspot was organic waste. Again, not surprising, precisely because of the impacts associated with food production. This is a major priority, eliminating food waste. Our annual food waste in Boulder is equivalent to 33 million pizzas being thrown away, which would disappoint all our college students on the Hill. Many of you know that globally, nearly 1/3 of food is wasted and it never makes it to the plates of consumers. Boulder's home to a bunch of really great programs, some diversion programs like Boulder Food Rescue, which could be structurally supported through policy. And so, there's lots of options here. Once food becomes waste, sure, we can compost it, but there's also ideas around, can it be used for animal feed to grow insects? Can we extract valuable components from them, from the food? So lots of really great strategies and thinking around how to deal with organic waste. Next slide. This is the final hotspot I'll highlight this morning, and it's one that really shows the potential of moving forward to a circular economy as a climate solution, which is something even within our climate department here in Boulder, zero waste wasn't always thought of that way. So, and that's the embodied carbon in the materials and products we consume. So we have a lot of efforts locally to deal with our local energy consumption, of course. We have a whole department working on climate, but to truly address Boulder's contribution to climate change, we really have to develop a vision for reducing our impacts, not just in the city, but outside. Cities are net importers of greenhouse gas emissions. We don't produce a ton locally, so this is a really, really key component. So this assessment they did for us was far from a complete consumption-based inventory. I don't want folks to think we have it all figured out because everyone knows how hard that is. But it does provide a starting point for understanding the order of magnitude of consumption-based emissions in Boulder. And the huge takeaway, probably the biggest takeaway of the whole report for us, was the emissions associated with the products coming into the city and use was bigger than all other sources of locally produced emissions combined, which is really pretty amazing when you think about it, how big of a climate solution this could be. So what that means is that even as just a small change in circularity can have an enormous overall impact. If actions such as repair and reuse can reduce consumption by just a few percentage points, this can reduce emissions more than making significant reductions in local electricity use, for example. So this was a huge take home for us. You know, they have some equivalents in this graphic, but it really just helped us reframe dealing with consumption and our materials as a huge part of our climate work in Boulder.